Oh,
hey,
no.
dude, get out.
Anthony, do you have anything
What do you have
to
to
say to
say,
the
Mother?
families?
All I got to say, I'm dry in jail, you hear me? But free Kilo though, free the gang, you hear me, on my mama.
What about the families?
I don't know nothing about no family shit.
Do you not care?
I don't know what y'all talking about, you hear me?
Are you remorseful of anything like that, man?
I don't know what you're talking about. Hey, get your PIs on my face though, you
Come
hear
on,
me?
man. Any message to your to your family?
All I got to say is, I'm gonna be home soon, you hear me?
What do you mean? How do you know? How do you know that?
Cause I ain't do
You didn't do anything? Why are you in cuffs?
I'm just dry in jail, you hear me? I don't know why though. Yeah, y'all can go ahead and free me out though, you hear me? Free the gang.
Okay, thank you all so much for being patient with us. We've got a lot of moving parts on this case as it actually involves two separate homicides. So I'll try to keep the facts as straight as possible. Okay. The suspect that you all just saw is Kilo Kimenker. Not a common spelling on the word kilo. It's Keylow. Last name is Kimenker, Kimenker. He's 19 years of age. Also arrested in connection with this case is a 17-year-old male, Anthony. I will not be able to release his name at this point. He's 17 years of age. At the time of the homicide, he was 16, and so he's being booked into the juvenile facility as we speak. So at this point, I apologize, but we are not able to part with his name. As soon as we are able to, as part of the process, we will do so. This case stems from a January 14th homicide. A murder of Mr. John Nelson Leonard. At 8:42 p.m., we were dispatched to Oldham Drive on East Bexar County for a report of shots fired. When deputies arrived, they found Mr. Leonard partially hanging out of his vehicle, suffering from several gunshot wounds. In the aftermath, we were able to develop some intel from some surveillance footage in the neighborhood. We were also to get some witness statements later in the process. But as of that evening, we were not able to make an arrest in that case. In the weeks that followed, several other things did fall into place for us. Weeks after that, ATF actually recovered, as a part of a separate case, ATF recovered a 9mm handgun, and some of the shell casings from that weapon that ATF recovered were found to match evidence at our homicide scene from Mr. Leonard's homicide. Later in March, we received information on a aggravated robbery that occurred at the residence of a man named Mr. Paul Bussell. That call came out on March 12th at Mr. Bussell's residence in East Bexar County. It appears that during that case, Mr. Bussell met up with at least one of these suspects, possibly at least one other, at his residence, and during that case, there was a transaction that was going to take place for a firearm. Mr. Bussell was robbed at gunpoint of that firearm. In the days that followed, Mr. Bussell was able to make a report with the Bexar County Sheriff's Office. He was in the process of cooperating with us, and at which point he kept going back and forth as to whether he was going to cooperate with us. My understanding was that at some point he was actually texting back and forth with Kimenker, one of the suspects in his robbery. At any rate, on March 18th, Mr. Bussell was actually going to come to the sheriff's office to give a statement with regard to that aggravated assault. However, at around 8:15 a.m. that morning, we received a call to Chipping in Oldham, and Mr. Bussell was found murdered. In fact, he was found to be shot during that incident about 13 times is what the medical examiner's office was able to develop for us. So on that day, we were able to develop information that Kilo Kimenker was a shooter in that case. He was arrested that day, and he has been in the Bexar County jail since then in connection with Bussell's case. Also on that same day, the same 17-year-old male that was arrested today was also arrested on weapons type charges and narcotics type charges that day, as well as failure to identify, but he was not arrested necessarily in connection with the murder itself. During that time, our homicide investigators continued to work on the homicide of Mr. Leonard from January. And we believe at this point that Kim Enker and the other male were the main shooters or the main suspects in that case. We believe that the motive in the murder of John Nelson Leonard was drug related. In other words, they met with him to purchase drugs from Mr. Leonard. Unbeknownst to Mr. Leonard, it was actually what we call typically a rip. They were ripping him off of the drugs. And at some point, it appears that he may have actually produced a weapon. The victim may have actually produced a weapon because we found him with an empty holster on his hip, but we were not able to recover the weapon. But we do, according to the surveillance footage that we do have, he was shot several times there at the scene. Again, our homicide unit did a great job of continuing to follow up leads. We were also able to get some good tips from the public with information on it, which led us to very recently, within the last couple of days, apply for 2 warrants for capital murder in connection with John Leonard's murder, or capital murder. And as I mentioned, we arrested the 17-year-old male earlier today without incident at his home in this same area, East Bexar County. And Kim Enker was obviously already in our custody, but he's being re-magistrated on charges of capital murder. And so both suspects are under arrest at this point, but we are not done yet in this case. We believe with regard to the January 14th murder of Mr. Leonard, there are at least 2 other suspects that are at large. We do not yet have them identified. So I use this as an opportunity to once again remind the public that thank you for the tips to this point. Those tips were absolutely instrumental in helping us get to this point where we arrested these 2 suspects. However, more suspects remain at large. And so I'm asking again for any information on the homicide of Mr. Leonard. Please give us a call. You can either call us at 210-224-STOP, that's Crime Stoppers. There is up to a $5,000 reward for information on that case, on this case, or any other felony charge. But additionally, you can also call our BCSO tips line, 210-335-TIPS. I'm sorry, 210-335-6000. Or you can also email us at bcsotips@bear.org. Esta tarde nosotros arrestamos a 2 sospechosos. Uno de estos sospechosos ya estaba bajo nuestra custodia en la cárcel. Este caso de ahorita se trata de, en el día 14 de enero, nosotros recibimos una llamada en Oldham, en el este del condado, por un reporte de balazos. Nosotros, cuando nuestros oficiales llegaron, ellos encontraron el cuerpo de la víctima John Nelson Leonard. Esa víctima fue baleada varias veces, desafortunadamente. Lo que parece es que la víctima esta intentó de encontrarse con cuando menos uno de estos sospechosos, no, estos dos sospechosos, se supone para venderles drogas. La evidencia que nosotros tenemos ahorita es que los sospechosos intentaron robar a la víctima de las drogas. Ellos balearon a la víctima varias veces y él falleció ahí en la escena de los hechos. Los sospechosos huyeron a pie. Nosotros esa noche recibimos video de la vecindad que nos enseñó un poco de quiénes eran los sospechosos, pero no teníamos suficiente información para arrestar a los sospechosos, sino que nosotros seguimos investigando este caso. El día 12 de marzo, un hombre que se llama Paul Bustle se encontró con Kim Enker, uno de los sospechosos en este caso, en su casa de él, en el este del condado, también en esa vecindad, para venderle un arma a Kim Enker. Desafortunadamente, Kim Enker y cuando menos otro sospechoso robaron esa víctima, lo robaron a fuerza y le robaron esa arma. La víctima nos dio la queja, él empezó a hablar con nosotros, nos empezó a dar información, pero también se sabe que él siguió hablando con el sospechoso porque eran amigos. Él intentó hablar con el sospechoso a ver si le regresaban el arma que le quitaron a fuerza, pero desafortunadamente el día 18 de marzo, cuando quedó la víctima de venir para acá para darnos información, esa mañana, aproximadamente las 8:16 de la mañana, nosotros recibimos una llamada en Chipping y Oldham por un reporte de balazos. Cuando oficiales llegaron, se encontraron con el cuerpo de la víctima, Paul Bustle, muerto de varios balazos, 13 balazos en total que el médico identificó. De ese día nosotros empezamos a investigar ese homicidio. Encontramos que Kim Anker estaba involucrado, entonces ese día lo arrestamos por el homicidio de Paul Bussell. Él ha estado bajo nuestra custodia desde ese día. Ese día también arrestamos a otro sospechoso, un hombre de 17 años de edad, que él lo arrestamos en ese día por otros cargos, de que no nos dio, nos echó mentira a nosotros de su nombre de él, pero también por drogas lo arrestamos ese día. Nuestros oficiales obviamente siguieron investigando el homicidio de Leonard de enero. Ya con información que nos llegó del público, nosotros logramos hace unos cuantos días aplicar por órdenes de arresto por Kim Anker, que ya estaba en la cárcel, y también por este hombre de 17 años de edad, que ahorita no podemos dar el nombre de él porque era juvenil al tiempo de ese homicidio. Entonces ahorita tenemos que seguir las leyes como si todavía fuera un juvenil. No podemos, obviamente por eso no podemos dar el nombre de él, pero ya cuando podemos, bajo nuestro proceso, les damos toda esa información. Pero este día arrestamos a los dos. Arrestamos al hombre de 17 años de edad sin incidente ahí en la misma vecindad. Y también arrestamos a Kim Anker, que ya estaba aquí en nuestra cárcel. Entonces él ahorita se enfrenta con 2 cargos por 2 homicidios. Pero desde el homicidio que ocurrió en enero de John Nelson Leonard, todavía nosotros buscamos 2 sospechosos desconocidos. Les pedimos al público que si tienen información, que por favor nos hablen al 210-3356-1000. También pueden llamar a Crime Stoppers. Esa línea es 210-224-STOP. Ese número sí tiene recompensa, hasta $5,000 por información tocante a este caso. Entonces, ya que el público nos han dado información que nos llegó a este punto que logramos arrestar a estos 2 sospechosos, les vamos a pedir al público otra vez que nos sigan ayudando, que nos siguen dando información, con las esperanzas que vayamos a arrestar a los otros 2 sospechosos. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
No, I would. So I remember the affidavit for Kilo Chemical back in March, and it said that he is suspected of perhaps other shootings. Is this the shooting that detectives were referring to, or do you believe he might be suspected of more?
Yes, I believe this is the one that they were referring to, but this person he does have a lengthy criminal history. So it would not be outside the realm of possibilities that there may be other violent crimes that he's involved in. The fact that this shooting occurred at 8:42 p.m., it wasn't even really totally dark at that time. It was in a neighborhood that he lives in. Basically, this man has no fear. The other shooting occurring in March at 8:16 a.m., broad daylight shooting, again, pretty brazen. This guy has no fear of consequences. And so it would not surprise me to find out that he may be involved in others. But again, we will use this as an opportunity that if anybody has information on other cases involving these 2, please give us a call. The public's done a great job of giving us information to this point, and we'd like the calls to continue. 210-335-6000.
So, la primera vez que fue encarcelado Kimenki, ¿bajo qué cargo estaba encerrado?
Cuando lo arrestamos la primera vez fue el 18 de marzo por el homicidio de Paul Bussell. Él ha estado bajo esa custodia mientras que nosotros seguimos investigando el homicidio de enero. Ya sospechábamos que estaba involucrado, pero no podíamos probarlo hasta unos cuantos días, desde unos cuantos días de ahorita logramos esa información para arrestarlo por ese homicidio. Pero ha estado bajo la custodia desde el marzo.
Entonces, cuando se le comprueba o de alguna manera se le relaciona al segundo asesinato, es cuando viene el asesinato capital, el cargo de asesinato capital.
¿Cómo dice usted? Ya estaba arrestado bajo arresto.
Por robar y por el asesinato.
Sí, y luego ya nosotros seguimos investigando el caso de enero. Ya cuando logramos esa información, entonces ya le pusimos otro cargo.
Parece que está muy seguro de que va a salir, porque ahorita él dijo, puede salir muy pronto de esto, o sea, no sé qué puedo.
Bueno, de alguien que ya tiene más de un mes, más de unos cuantos meses bajo custodia, no sé cómo está tiene la confianza, las esperanzas que se vaya a salir, ojalá y no. Ya él tenía otros cargos cuando pasó este homicidio, ya tenía otros cargos que había salido de libertad por esos cargos. Entonces, ahorita nosotros no tenemos las esperanzas que él se vaya a salir tan pronto como lo que él piensa.
Sheriff, the juvenile who's now 17, is he suspected in the March murder of Mr. Bussell as well?
We don't believe that he's got any connection to it, but again, anything's possible here. So we would ask anybody with information. You know, with any of these cases, just about any homicide case, especially those that are still active, it's always a puzzle in process. So it's possible that he's involved, and so we're asking anybody with any information, even if it seems minuscule, it may be, just like in any homicide, it may be the puzzle piece that breaks the whole thing open for us. So, we would ask for information.
El de 17 años, ¿bajo qué cargos está? Si estuvo presente el de 17 años en el primer asesinato.
Nosotros ahorita no pensamos que él estaba conectado con ese homicidio, sino que ese día lo arrestamos en conexión con ese caso, pero por otros cargos. Él nos echó mentiras de su nombre, ya cuando llegó a la cárcel tenía marihuana en su cuerpo, entonces lo arrestamos por eso. Entonces ahorita no tenemos evidencia que estuvo involucrado en eso.
In English, is that okay?
Just the fact that while we arrested him on the day of the homicide, it wasn't actually in connection with the homicide. It was pursuant to that same case, but it was a federal ID, and then when he got to the jail, he had marijuana on his person, so he was arrested for that. So he wasn't directly related, although he was arrested under that same case number.
Sheriff, he said, Mr. Denninger said, as we were walking him out, that he would see us soon out on the street.
Sure.
What are your comments to that?
I mean, look, this guy is somebody that I would consider him to be a career criminal. He was already out on bond when these cases occurred for other charges. He's got a lengthy history. I mean, he's been in custody since March 18th. So now that this is his second murder case, I don't see how he's so confident that he's going to be getting out soon. I mean, kudos to him for having that kind of confidence and stick-to-itiveness, but I just don't see it happening anytime soon. But the justice system does what it does, so we'll see what happens.
Sheriff, si este hombre sale libre bajo fianza, ¿sería decepcionante para ustedes como agencia de la ley?
Bueno, para mí este hombre es alguien peligroso. Ya nosotros tenemos evidencia que ha matado 2 personas en el día. A este hombre, él no tiene miedo de las autoridades, no tiene miedo a las consecuencias. Él deshace, hace lo que él quiera, mata gente. Entonces, para mí, esta es una persona peligrosa que no tiene derecho de andar en nuestra sociedad, no tiene derecho de andar con el público. Entonces, para mí, sería una tragedia si él logra salirse.
Libre bajo fianza.
Bajo fianza, eso fuera algo que pues yo no deseo. Pero obviamente yo no tengo esa autoridad para decir o no decir, pero sí para mí, yo prefiero que este hombre esté en la cárcel.
Can I ask you one more question?
Sure.
Unrelated to this, it's
Sure.
on behalf of one of my colleagues. They would like to know about the flooding, how BCSO is preparing for the flooding threat tonight after the June 12th deadly flooding.
Well, and while the June 12th flooding wasn't something that I can comment on, we weren't involved in that case. I can tell you that absolutely we have several low water crossings out in the county. We've handled some pretty heartbreaking cases out in the county with regard to those lower water crossings. So our deputies are always under orders to watch those things. You know, out in rural Bexar County, when a lot of these crossings that are in the rural areas don't have the arms that we wish they did, but they don't necessarily. And so we would just ask people to continue to use caution. Yes, while our deputies are being vigilant, and yes, while we have our processes in place, and we're certainly able and willing to rescue people, we'd prefer that it not get to that point. So we would ask the public to please, the old adage, I hesitate to call it that, but it's old advice that's still tried and true, turn around, don't drown. If you do see that rising water, it's just not worth it. And I get that you want to get to where you're going in a hurry, and you know, oh, it doesn't look that high. Water does crazy things, and water is literally a force of nature that can take your car away, and all it takes is just a little bit. So we would just ask people to please be considerate of yourself, your family, your passengers in your car, and the first responders that have to deal with it in the aftermath. Please be cognizant of that and avoid that situation altogether. Thank you.
Is there another walk after this?
No, the other one was a 17-year-old that, being that he's being booked under juvenile laws, we can't do it yet.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Sure.
Thank you.